There's a moment, just 3 seconds long, where everything changes. Her breath slows, her body leans, her guard flickers, and most men miss it. Not because they're careless, but because they've never been taught to feel with their presence. You think it's just a hug. You wrap your arms around her, you hold, you release, but you don't enter, you don't transmit. You don't realize that in that one silent moment, when her chest meets yours and the world falls quiet, you're not just touching her body, you're speaking directly to her nervous system. You think a hug is a gesture, but it's not. It's an energetic signature, a live wire of tension and intention pulsing between two bodies that don't know whether they're colliding or surrendering. And what most men never understand is that a woman doesn't feel safe because your arms are strong. She feels safe because your energy is still, because your center is unmoving, because you're not hugging her to get something, approval, affection, permission. You're holding her because you already have something, a quiet knowing, a grounded stillness, a masculine gravity that says, you can collapse here, and I won't. But the moment you hesitate, the moment you rush it, the moment your body whispers that you don't know what to do with her nearness, she feels it. Not consciously, but instinctively. Her breath stays high in her chest. Her hips stay angled away. She smiles, but her body doesn't soften, because something inside her is scanning for one thing: depth. And if she doesn't feel it, not in your words, not in your charm, but in the silent space between heartbeats, she will not trust you, not with her story, not with her surrender, not with her soul. And here's what no one tells you. A hug is the most honest moment in any interaction, because it bypasses logic. She's not thinking anymore. She's feeling. She feels whether you're still performing. She feels whether your body is tensed for outcome, whether you're secretly hoping this closeness means she wants you. And if that's the case, if your energy is just masked hunger, she recoils. Even if she smiles, even if she doesn't pull away, her desire disconnects, because she didn't come to be read. She came to be held. But not all holding is equal. Most men give physical pressure. Few offer energetic presence. The difference is everything. Pressure says, I'm here. Presence says, I'm not going anywhere. Pressure wants to be felt. Presence lets her relax. One feels like demand, the other like containment. And what she's secretly waiting for, what her body aches to feel, is a man who can hold her without collapsing into her. A man who doesn't just wrap around her body, but encircles her entire emotional state. Like a riverbank, holds the chaos of the current without drowning in it. You've hugged women before, but how many have melted in your arms? How many have exhaled without thinking? Let their shoulders drop, let their resistance vanish. That's not attraction, that's trust. And trust is the real currency of desire. Without it, her body might respond, but her soul won't follow, because women don't surrender to pressure. They surrender to certainty. And certainty isn't loud, it doesn't need to perform. It just is, steady, unshaken, undemanding. And in a world full of hungry hands and restless eyes, that kind of stillness hits her like a drug. But most men skip past it. They move too fast. They pat her back like a brother. They squeeze too tight, overcompensating. Or worse, they freeze. Their bodies go stiff like they're afraid to fully receive her. And she feels all of it. Every unconscious flinch, every ounce of performative control. Because her body doesn't listen to your words. It listens to your center, that emotional signal you send without saying a thing. And if your signal says, "I don't know how to hold this moment," she won't say it out loud, but she'll pull away. The rarest kind of hug, the one she thinks about for weeks, is the one that holds without asking. No agenda, no tension, no need, just pure, grounded, masculine stillness. The kind of energy that doesn't flinch when she steps closer, that doesn't hurry when her body softens, that doesn't try to control, fix, seduce, or impress. Just presence, just breathe, just the quiet statement of a man who knows who he is and doesn't need anything from her to prove it. But here's the paradox. To give that kind of hug, you have to stop hugging for her. You have to hold her the way you'd hold stillness itself. Not like a prize, but like a mirror that reflects her chaos and says, "I'm not moving." That's what breaks her. Not your charm, not your effort, your refusal to be moved by her emotions. Not because you don't care, but because your care runs so deep, it doesn't tremble. It grounds, it frames, it contains. And in that container, she feels something she doesn't even know she's been starving for. Rest. That's what almost every man misses. They think a hug is about getting close. But the truth? A hug is about showing your foundation. It's where she sees if your masculinity is a performance or a presence. It's where she feels whether your strength is armor or truth. And the moment she senses that your calm isn't dependent on her reaction, that you'd hold her the same whether she weeps, laughs, flinches, or folds, she falls into you like water, finding its shape. But the most dangerous moment isn't when she surrenders. It's what happens next. When you have her trust, when her body is no longer defending, when her softness isn't armor anymore, it's invitation. That's where everything inside you gets exposed. That's the mirror you can't escape. Because now she's not asking if you can hold her. She's asking, will you stay strong when I give you everything? Will you stay steady when I'm mine, not yours? Will you protect my fire without trying to own it? And that is where most men break. Because the moment she feels safe is the moment she begins to test. Not to sabotage, not to play games, but to see you. To see if the man who held her body can now hold her truth. She lets down the walls, but only for a moment. To see if you flinch, to see if you shift, to see if your calm was real, or if it was a mask you wore until she melted. And when that test comes, it doesn't arrive as a question. It arrives as mood, as silence, as resistance. It arrives in the way she pulls back just slightly. Not physically, but emotionally. And if you chase, if you lean in too quickly, too eagerly, the illusion shatters. Because now she sees you weren't steady. You were waiting for approval, waiting for reward, waiting to get something from her openness. And now that she's given you what most men crave, closeness, warmth, permission, she feels you change. Maybe just slightly, but enough. Your energy folds inward. You start looking at her differently, not with wonder, but with possession. And in that moment, a quiet grief begins to grow inside her. Because what she thought was masculine stillness was just hunger with a leash on it. And now she's seen what lives beneath it. You don't have to say a word. She knows. Her body knows. And just like that, the very thing that once made her exhale becomes the reason she can't trust you anymore. Because true masculine presence doesn't get louder when she softens. It gets deeper. It anchors harder. It speaks even less. It doesn't react to the shifts in her mood because it understands them. It doesn't personalize her coldness or over-celebrate her warmth. It just stays, grounded, calm, ready, not for control, but for containment. This is what most men fear. The silence after the surrender. The moment when it's no longer about charm or effort or pursuit, but about being. Just being. Just existing with her, without trying to impress her. That's when your nervous system tells the truth. Not your words, not your game, your stillness, your breath, your presence. And it's in that stillness that she listens most closely. Not to what you say, but to what you radiate. Because a woman doesn't fall for what you do. She falls for who you are when nothing is happening. When you're not in performance. When there's no stimulation, no seduction, no movement. Just space. Just the unspoken emotional rhythm that tells her whether she can rest in your frame or whether she has to become the strong one again. And make no mistake, if she senses she has to lead, even subtly, her body will close. Not with resentment, with resignation. Not because you failed her, but because you asked her to carry the weight your energy couldn't. That's the weight of the masculine. It's not control, it's containment. The ability to absorb chaos without flinching. The ability to feel her temperature change, not just physically but emotionally, and remain unmoved. Not because you're cold, but because your warmth is unshakable. Because you don't need her softness. You hold space for it. That's what makes her trust you with the kind of surrender that makes her eyes change. That's what makes her lean in without thinking. Because now her body recognizes something it rarely encounters. Safety with edge. Comfort without softness. Depth without need. And in that energy, she stops trying to be perfect. She stops trying to be understood. She stops testing. Because she knows your center isn't moving, that it doesn't bend depending on her mood, that it doesn't need her to be a certain way in order to stay present. And in that knowing, her femininity unlocks. Not the performance of femininity, the real thing. The fluid, emotional, chaotic, radiant current that only emerges when she feels fully held. And now, the hug. That one act, that one touch becomes a portal, a ceremony, a quiet, sacred exchange between two energies that don't compete, but align. Because now she's no longer hugging a man. She's surrendering into a frame, a psychological architecture that doesn't exist to take. It exists to witness, to hold, to protect, and not just her body. Her being, her mess, her brilliance, her wounds, her joy, all of it. But that only happens if you stop approaching her with the mindset of access, and instead operate from the mindset of reverence. Reverence isn't worship. It's respect at the level of energy. It's the deep, masculine knowing that what you're touching, emotionally, spiritually, is not yours to own, but yours to honor. And if you can hold her like that, not just with your arms, but with your silence, your gaze, your breath, she'll feel something no words can describe. She'll feel home. And once she feels that, she doesn't care about your status, your lines, your tactics, because you've given her something most men don't even know they lack. A real center. And from that center, you don't need to chase. You don't need to convince. You don't need to perform, because your presence speaks. Not loudly, not forcefully, but with the subtle gravity of a man who knows who he is and who never needs to explain it. And she'll return to that gravity like water returning to its source, over and over again, without needing to be asked. If this reached something inside you, not just in your mind, but somewhere deeper, then you already know this is more than just a channel. This is your initiation into a different kind of masculinity, one built on presence, tension, truth. Subscribe now, not to learn how to get women, but to become the kind of man they feel before you even speak. And remember, next time you hold her, don't just touch her, anchor her. I'll see you inside.